The Osinski Law Firm is an official sponsor of Top Bin 90, specializing in personal injury, criminal defense, DWI, family law, and workers' compensation. The Osinski Law Firm provides professional, trusted legal services to clients facing a variety of challenges. With a team of experienced attorneys dedicated to protecting your rights, the Osinski Law Firm is the legal support you can count on.
Hi, I'm Justin Osinski, the founding partner of the Osinski Law Firm. Me and my wife started this firm back in 2010 with the sole purpose of providing excellent service to our clients, giving our clients a personal touch because we had worked in bigger firms where we saw that not happening. We handle criminal defense matters, civil personal injury, wrongful death, workers' comp, and family law matters. We have a team of attorneys that care about the outcome of your case, and we will fight to make sure that you get the justice you deserve.
What's up, guys? Don't forget to join us February 21st as Charlotte takes on St. Louis for the first match of the season here at the pub. Join us here at the pub February 21st. Kickoff's at 2:30 and there's free parking right next door. What more could you want? See you then. Hello, and welcome to episode 49 of the Top Bin podcast. We're back in the studio after Snowmageddon 2026. It feels good to be back. You know, I was stuck at home for a day or two as well, and I was kind of going a little crazy, but we've got a lot of things to talk about today. Obviously, we got to see Charlotte FC in a Coachella Valley match. Andrew Privet wearing the armband. What else are we talking about? We're talking about some of the loan moves that happen in the goalkeeper position. We're talking James Rodríguez at Minnesota United now. And so with that, I've got my co-host, Mr. Bam Maurer Media. Brian, how are you today?
Doing well, man. Just got back from Florida, took the kids to Disney World, so rejuvenated.
Nice.
And also tired. Maybe need a combination of vacation and rejuvenation at the same time.
You also had like the most productive trip, right? You said you visited like almost every park in a record time.
Yeah. Shout out to my wife. She really crushed the Disney World logistics. I definitely did not take too much part in that. I just took care of the kids, got on the rides, enjoyed it. But yeah, she was well prepared for that trip. Nice.
And we also have Mr. Justin Osinski tonight. How are you today?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Nice. How were your snow days?
Oh, long. It's tough with the kids there and having your own business and not having any business going. It's calling you, every staff's out and trying to determine whether it's safe to go back because of the roads and all that stuff. And CMS closes for like. I was just worried, like, we're not even gonna have a spring break. They're gonna shut this thing down for a while. So it was rough, but we're through it. Hopefully, no more.
I was like,
the reason we moved down here was to avoid weeks like that.
Yep.
And like when you grow up here too, I'm like, okay, that was nice, but I'm kind of over it now. So awesome. All right, let's get into our first topic. Charlotte FC at Coachella Valley. First game that we actually got to see streamed live. And, I really loved the first half by Charlotte. Aggressive team. They had opportunities. The Toclomati one stood out to me a lot. We saw Abada again starting, so he's been regularly starting as well. And so, unfortunately, we came up with a loss against San Jose. Brian, what did you make of the game?
Yeah, it's not about results for me. It's about just seeing who's playing with who, what are the performing, who's Dean kind of looking at in terms of trust building. And I think the front four playing 70 minutes together, Zaha, Toclomati, Abada, and BL, I think was one of the main things that stood out. Seems like Abada is gaining some of Dean's trust back after losing that role towards the end of last year. And I was mostly impressed by his willingness to kind of put his body on the line defensively. He had to deal with DeJuan Jones in the first half. And so just having to deal with a winger or a wing back who's capable of getting forward like that and having to deal with that and be willing to play both ways, I think is going to help him get back on the field. Obviously, long-term, you need goals and assists if he's actually going to be the standout DP that this team requires. But if he can get himself on the field, that's the start.
Yeah.
And I think if he can show some two-way play, something that Vargas has shown, and that's why he keeps earning minutes, I think that's one of the big he's got to find a way to earn those minutes back. And I think that was maybe one indication of it, was just seeing that he was willing to hustle back and help cover defensively a little bit.
Justin, what are some of the things that you're looking to see from this team, in preseason?
Well, in preseason, I like to. One of the disappointing things I'll say about about the minutes that are being played is I like to see the preseason as trying to integrate younger players into the the establishment, and I don't know that we're really seeing a lot of that. I mean, I understand I know what Brant Bronico can bring to the table. I know you want your striker to be in sync. You want Toklamati getting his minutes and so forth, but I'm a little concerned that we don't have any. We're going to have a depth problem again.
Yeah.
Because we're not giving these guys any minutes when we need to see who should be stepping up. And I think what Brian's article I read today on the website, just talking about, giving these guys long minutes. I think that's one of Dean Smith's weaknesses is his inability to trust younger players. And at the beginning of the season, I think that's when you try and see what they can do when you're getting up to speed. But
yeah, we've seen consistent minutes from Lil Abada. Obviously, we can see what Zaha can do. I think one area that we're seeing kind of that open up, and it's more because there's been a lot of injuries in the back line.
Yeah.
Henry Kessler, who we signed, has been injured. Tim Ream has been injured. Nathan Byrne is injured. And so we've seen like a makeshift kind of back line, and some younger guys like Ajiman and Jack Neely have gotten opportunities. And so and also Andrew Privet, who had a consistent, year the year prior to this last one. So what are you making of, these injuries early in? Are we, we were hamstring FC for a little bit last year, are we hamstring FC in the preseason?
Well, it looks like calf, right?
Yeah.
We moved down the leg because it's Nathan Byrne and Tim Ream both dealing with calf issues. Not concerned about it yet. I mean, Ream and Byrne, need a preseason in terms of getting up to fitness, but Dean knows what he gets out of both those guys. So it's not. It's just the only issue for me is whether or not they are actually match fit by the time the season rolls around. Don't need to really worry about, I would say, role or anything like that. Dean knows what he's going to get out of them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's mostly fitness.
Yeah.
And they might not be ready week one, which is a disappointment. But I think this is where, Justin, like you said, like looking for young players to step up and get that opportunity. That's what Privet has done. He's earned the captain's armband during this preseason
That's
stretch.
pretty. That's a big
good
thing.
symbol,
Yeah.
right? And he didn't even. I mean, maybe Westwood was just being kind about it, but Westwood didn't take it back when he joined the field. He let Privet keep it for that full 90. There's something that Dean talked about after the match as well. So it seems like, and a lot of players stepped up and backed Privet throughout this whole preseason. When I talked to Nathan Byrne, he backed him up, said we believe in this guy. And Dean has mentioned it multiple times now, that his belief in Privet as a player, even saying that he thought he was a dark horse for their player of the season in 2024. So I think there's a decent amount of belief in him as a center back in this group. So I think I wouldn't put it against him keeping the starting job, even if Kessler gets back healthy, just because I think they're going to be kind of even in terms of Kessler being a new player coming in. How does he fit into this team? And Privet already having the experience in this group. If he's in good form, I think there's a chance that Privet, especially with Kessler now hurt a little bit and having a hard time getting reps. For me, I needed to see Kessler. I needed to see Kessler reps, and we haven't seen any Kessler reps yet. So I think for me, it's Privet's job to lose going into the season potentially, just because of that.
Yeah.
I kind of see it almost a little differently with
really?
the signing of Kessler. I think Privet's a lock
to
be a starter. I think Tim Ream
interesting.
is going to be replaced. I think that's why they signed him. I think Ream,
Interesting.
I think the
Like
agreement
this season.
Yes, I think Ream was agreed upon. He's going to get his minutes to give him a chance to play for the World Cup.
Yeah.
And then after that, they're going to phase him
Oh,
out.
that's a little hot take. I like that.
I mean, that's what it looks like. You bring in a couple 27-year-olds with MLS experience. They have the experience. He knows what he's going to get. They're going to be reliable.
Yeah.
Give him 6 months to get up to speed. But let's be honest. Tim Ream ain't getting any faster.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be slowing down.
Yeah.
But you honor your word. You're not going to be able to get people to come to your team if you don't honor your word and you say we're going to give you a starting job, or we're going to let you when you brought him in so he'd get minutes. So
For sure, yeah.
Compete for the World Cup roster. So I think they're going to honor that. But that's who I would be looking at being the
Yeah. The only concern with Kessler is that, like, you know, like does he have what it takes to, you know, be a starter at Charlotte FC? I think quality, yes, but like we're not sure with like injuries in the past, and he really wasn't Charlotte FC's first option. So he's really gonna have to prove it, especially just being on a year with a potential option.
Yeah.
You know, so it'll be very interesting. I do want to touch also on the left back position, Justin. You know, obviously Harry Toffolo came in last season, looked phenomenal near the end. David Schnegg has had a couple of reps, assist already, and even this past weekend he looked really good. You know, at least that position, I feel like going into the season, like there's like quality, you know, in that end. So what do you make of that kind of battle?
Yeah, I mean, it should be interesting to see how it plays out. I think really you're probably getting down to their ability to get forward and contribute on the offensive end with the assists and how they contribute through the air. Yeah, I think that's going to be the difference maker. Getting back on defense, I don't think there's a huge distinction necessarily, but getting forward and being able to create and running into the, you know, that getting, you know, everything you want those guys to be able to attack. We need them to be able to attack and set up Toklamati and Biel for goal opportunities. So I think that's the difference maker, is how they service the ball.
Yeah, Brian, I see both of, you know, Toffolo and David Schnegg, that like kind of Dean Smith style type of player, hard worker, aggressive. You know, you have Toffolo as kind of a dark horse for player of the season, you know. And so what do you make of that battle?
Well, I think it's still Toffolo's job to lose. I think if he's healthy and fully fit, based on what we've seen him do in championship at Huddersfield, the guy's capable of putting up double-digit goal contributions from a fullback position, and I think that's something that Dean is looking for. Who else can be a goal contributor in this team? He's mentioned that from like the center back role. He wanted goals from center backs at different positions. But I think what I liked most about seeing Schnegg get that longer run out was it didn't seem like there was a huge drop-off between one to the other. And I think Schnegg could end up going as a really underrated signing this year, just because there's not many positions that I see on Charlotte's roster right now where there isn't a distinct drop-off from 1 to 2.
That's a really good point.
And I think actually Toffolo to Schnegg is one of the few positions where if you see that, you know, if you see there's an injury to Toffolo again this year like there was through September last year, I don't think there's, I think Schnegg can slot right in, still be an experienced player who has had success in Europe and knows MLS as well. So I think you just won't see the drop-off where you will. I would say, like, Burns stays injured. Neely, like, Dean likes Neely on that right-hand side. He seems to be the clear backup right back right now. We haven't really talked about him, but he's been getting a lot of reps on that side. I suspect there would be a pretty decent, distinct drop-off from Burns to Neely just because
for sure.
it doesn't have the reps. Lack of experience.
Nathan Burns' savvy is invaluable to the team. So we noticed that when he was gone last season.
100%.
Huge drop off.
And same with Ream, because right now Jabril Diani has also been getting a lot of left center back reps to try to figure out who to be the left-footed option on that side if Ream isn't ready to go week 1. And I think there would also be a drop off there if Diani has to fill in a little bit more out of position and play left center back. So there's just a lot of other positions.
Justin's favorite player.
I mean, if we put Diani at left center back, I'm going to take the over on penalties conceded. I'm going to make some money because any game he's starting and center back is a guaranteed penalty. He is about as clumsy as you get in challenges. But
so my point is that not a huge drop off between Toffolo and Schnegg. Short story long.
Missed opportunities. Obviously, Henry Kessler because he's injured. But I'd also say, you know, and we haven't really touched on this, is Archie Goodwin. You know, he's kind of been injured as well. So like
Tiger Smalls too.
Yeah. So like that striker role, you know, right now all you really have is Toklamati.
Yeah.
I think we saw Vargas play that for a couple of minutes too in the game against San Jose. And so like I'm like, it sucks that like we can't see what Archie can bring to the squad, because I know he's got the work ethic, right? But that's not the only thing you need in MLS. Like,
No.
especially as a striker, you need goals.
And availability. You need
Yeah,
to be available for your
100%.
opportunities. This is why Bronico has had so much success in his time. He's taking care of his body, and he's just
Yeah.
always available. And so when the opportunity is there, if he's lost his job, he's gotten it back because he's just ready and able. And I think that's just going to be something that Goodwin has to figure out how to, get reps. And
Yeah,
get
that's the
those
unfortunate
opportunities.
part for me. It's like
Yeah.
preseason. Preseason is like Justin is saying, like we kind of got to see some of the players that we don't typically see, and even because I'd imagine, or Archie Goodwin is Tokolomati's first replacement, right? Like
Yep.
you sub off Tokolomati, you want to see Archie. And it was nice to see them combine for the last goal of the season last year, even though we lost that game.
Yeah.
They both, I think Archie assists to Tokolomati, right?
Yep.
And so he's a player that I'm like, dang, we're missing seeing. And then also Henry Kessler, right? I also want to touch on Liel Abada, and I've talked a little bit about this already. He's starting a lot of games. He's getting a lot of reps. And I'll start off with you, Justin. What does Liel Abada have to show you this season to let you know that he's the right DP for Charlotte FC?
Well, I think to get on the pitch regularly, he needs to show Dean he can play defense. I think we know that that's the distinction between him and Vargas. And then he's got to contribute goals. I mean, you can't be a DP in this league and not contribute double-digit goals at that position. I mean, it's just he has to be more creative. He has to be more assertive on the offensive end of things, and create. That's what he's paid to do. And yes, he needs to play defense to get on the pitch, but he makes his money on the offensive end, and he needs to create in a team that desperately needs creation.
For sure. One of the things we talked about before, Brian, was the goals and the assists distributed between Pep Biel, Zaha, and even Idan Toklomati, right? And we weren't getting that same production off the right wing. No. And so for you, what does Liel Abada need to do to show us, that, okay, like, it's been 2 seasons. This third season, Charlotte's going to count on him. Like, his market is gone in terms of the championship. They were looking to move him on. So, and Dean starting him, and he did say he was a nice guy. So, what do you need to see from him?
Well, I mean, I think it started with just finding a way to get on the field, showing some fight, and I think he showed a little bit of that in this last game. And then it ends up, you have to stay on the field, you have to be goal productive, like you said, Justin. And I think one interesting wrinkle that we've seen so far in preseason, and it started back when we saw them play against Charleston, was Dean mentioned he wants to see these guys attacking more centrally. And we see that specifically from Zaha, where he's coming inside a little bit more. The fullback is overlapping, but then he found Abada over the top. And so if you have a Zaha or Biel who picks up the ball a little bit deeper in central positions and finds the pass to the next runner, I think that's where Abada has an opportunity to shine. I don't see him improving a ton in terms of his vision and creativity in terms of finding that extra pass, but I see him more as a finisher. So if Zaha or Biel can find him on that off-ball run, I think that's where he can shine. And I think that's what Dean is looking for. He's looking for Zaha to pick up the ball more centrally, a little bit deeper, have, whether it's Tufflow or Schnegg, we've seen them both do it now this preseason, overlapping run, get extra runners in there, and find Abada in the box. But then at the same time, he's got to finish those chances. He had some chances last year. Vaughn's come on our pod and told us about the XG, right?
Yes.
So it's like it comes down to turning the XG into G.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. And I agree with both of you. The only thing I would add is that DPs in MLS, for me, they have to stand out.
Yeah.
Especially in certain games, right? Like, I can think of 2 or 3 games last season from Wilfred Zaha that he pulled us out, right? I can think of Pep Biel during the season as well, that he was a key player. And it's very hard for me to look at Liel Abada's time at Charlotte FC. The only game that really stands out for me is Atlanta away, where he scored twice. But there hasn't been games where he's truly been impactful, where we're like, thank goodness we had Abada. And that's what makes a DP in this league. They have to be the difference maker, and Abada hasn't been that player for us, and he's going to have to show it these next 6 months, right? Because I think it's more of people are kind of have moved on from him as the right DP, and he's got one more opportunity to show that he's the guy at Charlotte FC as well.
Yeah, presence being felt. I think that's actually one thing we saw from Zaha in this game against San Jose. I feel
100%,
like especially
yep.
even throughout the full 70, we saw him taking players on, winning
Phenomenal
fouls
ball
and
to
dangers.
Tokolomati.
Yeah,
Great
good.
ball to Labada. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you saw him play really, really well.
And just the presence, you're like, oh, this is like a dangerous player out there. You can feel like San Jose kind of being on the back foot. You've never seen that. For me, I've never seen that from Abada where there's been a moment like, oh man, this other team, even from Ajiman, we used to see teams kind of have to deal with the presence of him on the field, and I just don't think we've seen that from Abada. So that's a good point there.
Yeah. This is a really good comment. I think the issue with Abada is he can't create his own chances. I'd go with Vargas or Aloko on the right. They're aggressive dribblers who aren't afraid to go 1v1. Speaking of Aloko, you know, he also got on the score sheet. We saw the goal actually today, I want to say. And so that's a player that big investment, Brian.
Yeah.
$6 million they spent reportedly for this player. And so I guess when you're looking at a player that could add something significant, he would be one of the players that would stand out to you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one other benefit that Dean has going into this season from the Luca de la Torre signing. And actually, shameless plug, I have another article coming out a little bit more about about those depths and different options that Dean has. But I think Luca de la Torre as a signing gives him an extra option in midfield, so he can even move Pep Biel around. So Pep Biel, I think, is now more of an option at right wing without sacrificing as much centrally. So I think if you have Pep Biel out wide or a Loco, I think there's just multiple directions that Dean could go depending on who's in form and who's creating what in which scenarios, to where you're not as dependent. If Abada's form doesn't get there, you can still find other guys. And I think a Loco or Biel out wide are both options if you don't stick with Vargas.
For sure. Justin, we've seen the two-way street path for Crown Legacy players. There's the Tokolomati route where he comes in, you can tell he's quality. This is going to be a really good player for us. And then there's the Petkovic route where he came in, had opportunities, didn't quite fit, didn't really give us that next umph that we're expecting, you know. A Loco, for me, comes in that same tier because of his price tag, you know. And so, obviously, for me, I'm going to give him a season to get acclimated with the team. But what are you expecting from these big signings that come in, right, that go the Crown Legacy route?
Well, I think I like the way we're handling things. I like how we're bringing in, you know, it's a good plan to bring in guys, pay $6 million, keep them in the legacy, the young guys, build them up and develop them that way. Because first of all, there's less risk when you're only investing $6 million versus putting in $20 million. $20 million, the guy better produce right away.
Yeah.
And, you know, $6 million, give yourself a little bit of a cushion, and your upside is infinite. So I think that's where I like that. I don't expect him to contribute necessarily, but I want to see him play. Like at this price tag, at his age, I at least want to see him get in some games.
Right.
You know, at least to see what he can do. Even if you throw him in there when we're losing on a game 3-0, just give him some run, see what he can do. I think that's one of Dean's, as I mentioned earlier, one of his weaknesses is giving those guys some run and letting them see, and not having the starters play 75, 80 minutes in a game. So I want to see him play.
Nice, yeah, me too. I'm curious. Like I'm betting that he's going to be one of the bright spots for this season. One, because of the price tag, and two, because he's getting reps in. You know, he's having time in preseason, and he also was just at the AFCON as well. Yep. So like, it's not like he needs to catch up in certain aspects of the game, right? And so. I also do want to touch on, you know, and you brought it up a little bit, Luca de la Torre.
Yeah.
You know, a player that's going to raise the floor of the midfield. What have you made of him so far?
Well, I think ideally he actually raises the ceiling. His price tag puts him in like a top 5 player on this roster. So I think not only the floor, but I think he really should raise the ceiling of this team in terms of being able to control the ball more, progress the ball more, create more attacking volume. So far from what I've seen from him, it's just Dean's trying to figure out all these different pieces in that midfield, and he's gotten Luca specifically reps with pretty much everybody just to see what different options he has available. Like in this last game, he played with Diani for 45 minutes and then rotated Westwood in for the second 45, where Luca was out there for another 25, 30 minutes or so. And so, and we've seen this all preseason. He was with Bronico during one game and Koulibaly during another. So it's just like he's seeing how he fits with all these different pieces and other midfielders, and that's just something I think Dean really has just keyed in on. Is like, hey, I want different midfielders with different traits, so I can play two double pivot with a single up top, like he had a lot of last season. He can play a flat 3, or he can play a single 6 with 2 8s. He wants to be able to have this diversity in how he sets up his midfield. And I think what Luka does is he gives a little bit of both. He gives progression, but he can play the way I was expecting him to play a little bit more advanced, but he's actually been playing a lot deeper.
Yeah.
And so I feel like right now Dean's looking at how he works in that double pivot and also just builds up out of the back, but then also how he gets forward as a late runner, arriving outside of the box and then distributing towards those attacking players. I'd like to see him play in a more advanced role just to see what that looks like. If BL was out wide, just to see a different look, but it doesn't seem like we're going to get that. I was kind of wondering if we were.
Well, because, I mean, there was a point in that game, too, where, like, it looked like Brandt was a second striker.
Yeah, he's stuck with him. He's stuck with him in that role pretty much all preseason. I was really surprised when Luka came in that Bronico was going to stay that high up the field, but he really has, and it seems like he's definitely also become more second string as well, a lot faster than maybe I thought Bronico would, just because of how much trust he's earned from Dean. But based on the difference between what we saw as the lineups from the San Jose game to me looks pretty close to what the starting 11 week 1 will be. Subtract obviously Nathan Byrne and Tim Ream. The only 2 caveats to that. But if they're not available, I would think then that Privet's pretty much a locked-in starter. But then you also have to find whether it's Diani or as the other center back or Neely on the right. It's pretty close to the starting 11 what you saw out there against San Jose. But then the Phoenix Rising 11 was like Bronico got a full 90 in that game, and a lot of the other young prospects were. So for me, it seems like there's a clear Team A and a clear Team B, and Bronico seems to be clearly in Team B right now based on just the minutes he's getting there. And it's because I think Dean has continued to play him so advanced. So if Biel's the starter in that role, Bronico's then slotting in as the backup.
Yep. So you heard it, 20-goal season from Brandt Bronico.
Bold.
Justin, expectations for Luca De La Torre for you. Obviously, I think he's going to play a key role, but what does that mean, being a key role in Charlotte FC's midfield for you?
I think he just needs to allow us to be multidimensional.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we were missing in terms of how we attacked. We need someone who can possess the ball and bring it up.
Yeah.
Instead of, Westwood going over the top or just playing the runs on the side, overlapping runs, we need a more direct approach option. It needs to be a possibility. It can't be, kick it over their heads, trying to find a 2-line pass through the midfield. We have to have other ways to score.
Yeah.
Because when you minimize your ability and you see when we get shut down, we just don't have these opportunities because people know what we're going to do. It's predictable. And you know how the offense is going to run through, especially with Ajimang when he was on the team last year. I mean, we were going to try and hold it up and try and get it up to him.
Yeah.
And that was our whole offense, which is fine because he was a dominant. And he's doing great things in the championship. He's a dominant physical force that was a problem. But without him, we don't have that dominant hold that can really change the game up there.
Right.
We need to change
That's
our
a really
approach
good point. Yeah.
to a more direct up the middle type, and then outside, it's got to come multi-direction.
Yeah, that's one of the things when you're looking for another strike, I still think we need a third striker, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the type of archetype of striker I would like. Somebody kind of like Ajimang, maybe near the end of his career, that can come and, be a nuisance to defenders, that you can throw a long ball and, he could be a guy that catches it. So really good stuff you're mentioning there. I do want to ask also, one of the things that struck me from just these last 2 Dean Smith pressers is his post-match pressers is, it feels like you mentioned that there's a clear distinction between Team A and Team B. Yeah. But I feel like he feels like Team B isn't really there or up to par, because he talked a lot about hey, the first team did great. The second team, we really have to get these guys understanding, what I want for them to play. And so does that bring you any concern, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, for a guy like Bayo Coulibaly, who's been there for a little bit now, right? Yeah. He's been a part of the organization for he was signed last winter, I believe, but then played with Legacy the whole year. So certain guys like that who have been here for a loco, I expect him to. I mean, he has never played. I mean, he was signed by Crown Legacy, but he's never actually played in the Carolinas. So for him, I expect it to take some time. But for some of these other guys like Emmanuel Uchegbu too, like he's a guy competing with the loco for that last senior roster spot. I'd imagine that there's an international roster spot and a U22 initiative spot like available on this roster, and I think it's between a loco and Uchegbu came in on transfer fees. But the fact that they're both maybe not up to snuff. Aloko taking longer because he hasn't gotten minutes, but Uchegbu played with Legacy all of last season for the most part. So these guys definitely, I would say, have some more learning to do, and that's going to be, like you said earlier, Justin. Dean doesn't tend to just let them learn on the fly.
He's not going to let them learn on the pitch in the season. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so if they're not up to snuff in preseason, I mean, I don't know where that learning then comes from. So they're just going to have to figure out what he wants from them. Other guys in that B team, I mean, Bronico, I don't think there's any issue there.
Yeah.
Some of these other guys just haven't beaten out, a spot on the roll, on the roster. So we'll kind of have to see. But Uchegbu, Aloko, and Bai Koulibaly are the three that really stand out to me. Is like what happened and why. Like Koulibaly, the most part, because I thought he was really going to be competing for a role in that midfield.
Yeah.
With Westwood being a player who's now turning 36. Bronico and Gianni kind of in and out of the starting lineup a lot and kind of getting pushed out and then having to fight their way back in. There seems like there's options for a player to solidify a role, and Koulibaly not being able to do that. And he was also in on a transfer fee, multiple millions of dollars. So it's, we'll kind of have to see.
100%. Justin, how big of a concern is it for you, that, I mean, when I'm looking at a team that wants to be in a top 4 race, right, for this year, like it has to be a really good starting 11 and a couple of options off the bench. Are you concerned with the lack of depth?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always been a concern with this team, and slowly, and that's what the problem is when you're not giving some of these backups minutes, these younger guys minutes throughout the season, is then you get to the end of the season when you need the backups to be able to produce something off the bench, and they've never played. I mean, you can't stick Brandon Cambridge out there like you did last year and expect him to do something when you haven't played him all season.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true. It's very true.
It's just not going to happen, and you're not expecting anything. It's almost like a give up. You got to get these guys playing early on. If you're going to give them a roster spot, give them some time early, give them some run, give them some confidence boost, or at least know what they can do, and tell them to be aggressive. Because they don't have to make, they don't have to play 90 minutes. They just have to make 10 impactful minutes. And that gives them, the luxury of being all out and doing creative things. I mean, that's what you're really looking for on the bench, and you got to find some of these guys who can contribute that way. I mean, I'm not worried about the defense. I think defense depth, is going to be there as long as the health.
I'm low-key starting to worry, the health. Because, I mean, you've got Tim Ream hurt. You've got Nathan Burner hurt. You got Henry Kessler hurt. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of like – but it's still early, Yeah. Although their first official match is in 12 days, right? And so that's what they're aiming to, and that's what they're working to. And I'd imagine, like, it doesn't seem like Dean is too concerned just yet. Right, with some of these key players missing, and so I'm very curious to see, especially this next match, what kind of lineup. And I think you're right, Brian. Like we're getting closer. That lineup I saw is like this is probably 80 to 85% of what I'm expecting, right? Especially like I'm just I don't know if surprise is the right word that Abada is starting over Kerwin Vargas, right? And so obviously they've said he's looked good when he's come back. He looks active, but that to me means nothing now. Like, you're a DP that's been here. This is your 3rd season here. Like, I don't care how active you look. Produce,
Absolutely.
Awesome. Anything else from the game that you took away or any of you guys took away?
I mean, you highlighted a little bit the backline concern. I think that's, for me, just making sure these guys are all healthy. I think the big question for this last dress rehearsal game is is Tim Ream and Nathan Byrne, is this like, are they like, if they were in midseason, would this calf injury keep them out of the lineup in a real game?
Yeah.
So I think that's what we'll find out this weekend, is just like how close are they to actually just being able to get reps? Because I think that's key for me on this upcoming Saturday, is seeing if that full back line, the cohesive back four that we want to see week one, will be out there.
For sure. Nice. I do want to touch a little bit on, we've seen a lot of movement in the goalkeeper position, right? Obviously, Drake Callender came in and left last season.
Yep.
Tyler Miller's come in. Now we've seen Chituro Dunze go to Phoenix on a loan move, and they moved up. Why is his name not coming to my mind right now?
You're forgetting the goalie wars champ?
Yes.
Isaac Walker?
Isaac Walker. Both of them are goalie war champs, though, to be fair, you know. And so, my bad, Isaac. I love Isaac also, and I'm like, why is his name not coming to my mind? Anyways, you know, obviously great for Isaac, you know. He goes up to the team. Chituru not getting minutes, right? And so he goes on a loan move to try to get minutes. What does this tell you a little bit about, you know, Charlotte FC in general?
Well, I think,
especially on that back line.
I think Chituru looks like, I mean, they want to see him get reps. And so you have 5 goalkeepers under contract, right? Kalina's the starter. You bring in a veteran in Tyler Miller, which is something Dean had talked about wanting. That's a backup that is willing to fight Kalina for minutes, but it will be ready now. Tons of MLS experience, has won trophies in this league. So you kind of see that is the 1-2. But then it's like, how do you get these other guys reps? So I'd imagine that means Holiday is going to be getting reps at Legacy. Chituru Adonze going on loan gets him reps there. And then Isaac Walker is actually a little bit older than these other guys. Holiday and Adonze are in their early 20s, like 20, 21, 22. Walker's 25. So he's in a little bit different age bracket, I would say. Came out of college, has played at Legacy for several years since day one. And I think that's just, this is their way of saying, like, hey, you've earned a contract. It's short term. It's just for the season. We need a third string guy. Keep getting reps. You have an option, a couple option years. If you can show that you can help elevate this goalkeeper room, just chemistry wise, culture wise, and just be a part of that. I think that that's what it looks like to me. It's not a guy who's necessarily pushing for any kind of actual like distinctive role, but it's like you need to have a third option there. And this is at a point of his career where he's probably deciding, like, what's my next step? I have another year to kind of work that out. Do I go to USL? Do I try to find another role on a team? Like, he's got a year now with a senior roster or a first team contract to kind of work through those options. Because now 25, 26, probably not part of Charlotte FC's long-term future, because he's kind of in between those two ages where you've got Kalina, who's probably good for several years, and then Adonze coming up, or Holiday, these other guys who are younger prospects. So Walker's kind of like in between.
Yeah, I think Justin, Brian nailed it with that, right? For me, on the Odunzu part, like, the positive is he goes and gets minutes and goes play somewhere else. The negative to me is that, okay, like, I guess Dean doesn't see him or anybody in the goalkeeper's position, right, as somebody that could come in and step right in for Christian Kalina. And so is that a concern to you at all? Because it looks like they keep trying to find a number 2 that really competes with Kalina.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about, you get a vet. I think you have, really the way they've shaped the goalkeeper position, I think it's ideal. I think you have 2 guys who are going to compete at the younger end of things. You've got a guy, in Walker, who has the opportunity possibly to make something of him. He's got an opportunity here. He's in an age group where he could push Kalina if he makes a jump. And if not, he's a third keeper. You're not really expecting him to get any minutes. And then you got a veteran backup who's kind of pushing Kalina. Maybe you want some to push him harder, but also Kalina, are you going to bench Kalina for a long-term situation in this town after what he's done? He
could have done more on that first goal against. No, I'm kidding.
He's going to have to make some. He started after he got that concussion they didn't call. What was it, last season? He had some shaky games.
I totally forgot that.
After the concussion, he was not himself. But assuming he's playing like himself, I don't see how he's going to get taken out anyway. You're just putting you just want a veteran backup just in case an injury happens and you're not scrambling.
For sure.
So I like the goalie, how they've structured it, age-wise, prospect-wise.
Yeah, although I will say it's interesting. Tyler Miller's like they signed him to a decently long. I mean, he's got a couple years on his contract plus an option year. So he's here signed in for a couple of seasons. Whereas Kalina, he's in the contract year technically. So there is, I would say, from contractually, there's some interest there depending on what happens.
100%. I mean, listen, I've said this before on this show. I'm going to say it again. Something feels off about, I feel like they're trying to push my boy Clean out somehow, and so we'll see after this season. Hopefully he has another phenomenal season, Another thing I wanted to touch on, big headlines in MLS, James Rodríguez to, out of all places you would have thought in MLS, goes to Minnesota United, and so this league has come a long way when players of that caliber, obviously James is at the end of his career now, 35, he's actually played in just this funny side story, the barbershop I go to, one of the barbers is Colombian. I was like, yo, how many leagues has this guy played in? And we started naming them, and he's like, he's played in Bundesliga, the Prem, he's played in La Liga, he's played in Qatar, he's played in Brazil, he's played in Mexico, he's played in Colombia, he's played in he's played
That's why he's coming to MLS.
Yeah. To MLS, right? And so, and he's definitely not where I thought he would end up out of all places. I'm like, okay, James to me feels like a Miami, New York, LA type of player. Yeah. And what's the most polar opposite of Miami? Minnesota, and so
the team that hates playing with the ball.
That's another thing
so
too.
Many reasons.
Yeah. So Justin, I just want to talk first. Let's talk about impact. Obviously, James Rodríguez is a Colombian soccer legend, He's had a pretty good career, Inconsistency. He played for Everton as well. I feel like James first 5-6 games out of this world for Everton. I remember that. Yeah. And then I feel like he kind of fell off a little bit, and so.
Yeah, he still has that ability to make, his vision is special. And his ability to deliver with that vision, is what makes him, just what a legend he is. His ability to do that, his speed, all those other things have kind of diminished a little bit. But that, I think, is really what Minnesota is getting, is someone who can create that pass, that game-changing play that 99 out of 100 guys in the league can't make.
Yeah.
And that's the game changer he is. But you're going to have to deal with, the lack of activity, so to speak, in terms of the rest of his game.
Yeah. And so also talk to me about, when you're looking through MLS, right? Charlotte, you think of Wilfred Zaha. Obviously, Miami, you think of Messi. LAFC, Ricky Puig. LAFC, you think of Son. LA Galaxy, you think of Ricky Puig. Now Minnesota has kind of that caliber, oh yeah, James is there, How good is that for a league like MLS that continues its spike up?
I don't know that this signing is too 15 years ago. He's too past his prime, in my opinion, for it to make any kind of waves. I understand he's going to be able to contribute. Like I said, he's still a special player. He can still do special things. But I think for MLS to really make that next step, it's got to be getting that player who's 27, 28, still in his prime coming to a team. Getting a guy like Weston McKennie would be a bigger deal, I think, for this league when his deals with Juventus is up. He's making a pitch
move for him
after the World Cup and say, hey, here's it all. Lead this team. The way his form is, I think someone like that would be better for the league in terms of you need to grow this country too. You can't just grow the international recognition. People in this country aren't going to know him as well as they're going to know Weston McKennie, especially hopefully after his triumphant World Cup.
Nice. I like that. More competitive league, versus, getting players that, may be a little bit past their prime. But Brian, what are you expecting from James Rodríguez in MLS. Obviously, like he was at Bayern, and there's been a lot of talks that, he didn't like the coldness of Germany. Well, he's going to somewhere just as cold in Minnesota.
Well, it might be why he's only signed a 6-month contract, so he can kind of cut and run in June. So, I mean, I think that's a part of it. I think it's a low-risk, high-reward type move for Minnesota, who just lost their coach, trying to figure out a new way to play. I think it's gotten to the point over there with, if you all aren't familiar with Minnesota's game model, but last year they literally they had no possession. They try to keep the ball away from themselves as much as they possibly could, and I think James Rodríguez is a signal that they're trying to find some players who appreciate the ball and and enjoy playing with it a little bit. And I think it's a signal to players on their roster already that, hey, we're kind of trying to change things up. We're going to have a little bit more fun with the way we play. We're not just going to stay compact and put in long throws into the box and all those kind of things. And so I think that's an initial signal. And then at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, he's gone in June. For James, it gets him minutes with a team where he's trying to just get ready for a World Cup, right? And so I think it's a positive, low risk, high reward for all parties involved. It's not like, I mean, Minnesota literally didn't realize they were going to lose their coach until preseason had gotten underway. It was a pretty last minute decision where Eric Ramsey got a new job and got a promotion back in England. So you got to try to fill the gap somehow, some way. And so I think that's what this looks like to me. I mean, the notoriety behind the move is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 65 media there. I saw a post. There were 65 international media members on his initial press conference. So just having more MLS, I think, is positive, especially in the smaller markets like a Minnesota.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that, when you get signings like this, a lot of people still around the world think this is MLS 1.0, where, the league hasn't, improved in terms of quality.
Yeah.
But then, you get pleasantly surprised if you start watching the league itself. You're like, okay, there's actually some decent teams here.
Yeah.
We talked about this on the last show. I feel like most MLS teams could compete with a lot of teams in the championship. Maybe not the top 5 and 7, but the rest, they're definitely there, and it's a really good level for where this league is, and where it potentially grows, right? James is obviously going to bring eyeballs. What I would expect from James, or what I want, is, at least maybe 8 to 10 games in his 6 months here where you're like, wow, this is vintage James, and so him and Joao Felix for me are kind of those players that give you 5 amazing games and then they kind of disappear for the rest of the season. So obviously we have to see what happens with him. But to me, I think it's a good deal short term, right? Yeah. Minnesota gets some eyeballs, a market that doesn't really it's not a market that you really think about when you think of MLS. Obviously, all the Colombians are going to be watching him, especially people I got asked twice already, is he coming here? I'm like, bro, just Google it. Yeah. I was like, we're definitely not playing Minnesota this year, but we did play them 2 years ago here at home.
I think what along those lines, what helps too for clubs like Minnesota, and you bring these players in, and it's helped with Charlotte, is you bring in players of that caliber. They have a large web of connections. So when people are looking to transfer and they say, how did you like Minnesota? I loved it, because these people, people are international. They have no idea what Minnesota or Charlotte is like. It's not New York. It's not Miami. It's not LA. So how do you get those guys there? Well, you first got to bring in someone who can vouch for the organization, vouch for the city, vouch for what that lifestyle is going to be like. So I think that helps attract more players. And we've seen that with Dean and Ashley West.
That's a great point.
It starts snowballing for you.
Yeah, that's a great point. I feel like we've started to tap into that fringe USMNT kind of either starters or getting into the squad, right? Yep. With Charlotte FC. Obviously, you're mentioning that English market, because I even asked Zaha that. I was like, have you been getting hit up from other players? And he's like, yeah. He gave me the most Zaha answer, but the answer is yes. Other players now are interested. Well, you're there. What's the league like? Is it competitive? Am I going to go hang out? What is this cookout I keep hearing about? Oh man, but yeah,
Are their cookout trays really $5?
did they really build two next to each other? Oh man, all right. Last topic I want to get into is MLS and Liga MX could potentially join Copa Libertadores. One of the most prestigious tournaments in South American football. If you're in those circles, they're going to tell you that it's better than the Champions League. It's not, but, it's definitely more competitive than Conca Champions, even though Conca Champions is getting better, but going to these remote islands and you've seen, the thing that sticks out to me was, when a Honduran team went and played, I think it was a team in Bermuda, and the owner came on for like 20 minutes, and he was like 60. So
Owner player.
I was like, dang, dude, if this guy can do it, one day I'll own my own team and get out there.
There you go.
But Brian, getting back, I took us like on a whole left field. Get us back. What could this mean for the league? And do you feel like this is actually a possibility?
I mean, I think all parties are at least open to the conversation, especially while Messi is at Inter Miami, right? I think almost any conversation
100%
is open just because of Messi being in the U.S. right now. I mean, that's why Infantino is talking about like Club World Cup, and then Miami all of a sudden gets qualified for it out of nowhere. They just made it up, right? They're like, oh, Supporters Shield actually qualifies for it now, because they broke the record.
Prestigious. That's why Dean wants it, bro.
And right, so like all right, and so there's just all these kind of scenarios where like they're just gonna see how can we get Messi in this competition, in this scenario. Long term, I think there's a lot of benefits because situations like this will last past Messi, right? That's where it's a
100%.
Messi effect. I think people will be like, well, they're just doing this to support Miami and Messi and all that stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, but there's a benefit to MLS clubs playing against Fluminense in the long term,
100%.
and I'm for that.
Yeah.
Even if it requires Messi to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. I mean, there's not many players that will make that gap be bridged.
Yeah, I mean, and when you're looking at like all the things that are going on in the Saudi League right now, where like there's a big difference where like players will come for money, but there's like I don't really see what is the structure or what they're trying to do long term in the Saudi League versus MLS. Like they're not paying these crazy money, but you can at least see a progression year to year, and that's going to continue, and the eyeballs are going to continue to come, right? And two, like I've seen Messi in Honduras now, Ecuador, El Salvador, Puerto Rico, right? And when you take them there, like the memes come, the city gets excited, the country gets excited. So like you mentioned, that's their pawn to lead with. Like, hey, like you want Messi in a stadium near you, especially in a tournament like Copa Libertadores. And the long-term benefit of it is that, okay, like now there's a pathway for MLS teams. Justin, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it would be amazing, I think, opportunity for all parties. I think you expand all those areas in terms of their reach, because the money in America is not going to be matched. If the potential for MLS and the money is going to be unmatched, and you use Messi to make those connections, then all of those, there's so many more eyeballs over here in the Americas, and just watching everyone play, and it's more interconnected, so you got a better reference point, especially now that you see the MLS is starting to get more players jumping to Europe. It's going to help all parties, and I think that, and it's just I think there's too much money involved when you start talking money, that the parties aren't going to go, yeah, let's get this done.
For sure. Yeah, and I also think, like, when you look at soccer in a global scale, right, like even comparing, I think the Super Bowl had, 210 million people watching it? City versus Liverpool had 750 million. I'm not saying they can get those numbers, but if at some point you could get, a good 30, 40 million people watching a Copa Libertadores match, and it's, Inter Miami versus a Boca Juniors or a River Plate or a Fluminense, like a big team, right? Messi's involved somehow like that, or players of that caliber, and you're getting more eyeballs, that only benefits the league.
And I think it's also, Justin, you mentioned this, like the interconnectedness of it. Like having big competitive matches, I think in this hemisphere, there's just a lot of benefit to that. I think there's a lot more similarities between North America, Central America, South America in terms of the way they approach sporting. That I think there's an overlap there, and in terms of just the players. Like, I mean, when you look at early days, a lot of the players that came and brought this league to where it is now were recruited from South America, Central America.
Yeah.
And I think and then obviously from immigration, like there's just a ton of people in the U.S. that are I mean, we saw it from the Colombian fans when they had Copa America here.
Yeah, it was
Colombia
crazy.
Showed out like crazy. That was the moment when I was like, James Rodríguez has to come to MLS. Seeing Uruguay play Colombia. So I think there's just a lot of interconnectedness that gets sometimes overlooked between in this hemisphere. That sometimes we try to push the MLS needed to compete with the top 5 leagues in Europe.
Yeah.
When there's just, I mean, a lot of players want to go to Europe and stuff like that, but I think there's actually a connection between North America, Central America, and South America that sometimes in the sporting hemisphere, sporting aspect of things gets a little bit overlooked.
100%, yeah. And I would say if I'm a sporting director in MLS, like I want to see some of these teams come here because, like, you know, you could do the Zoran approach too, where like, oh, the U.S. men's national team's playing here. Yep. Let me see who might be interested in coming here. Hey, don't you like playing here? Yep. You know, same thing with when Madrid came. Hey, Luka Modric, don't you think you'd love playing here? You know, and so it's an added benefit for you pulling in that talent as well because they've never been. They don't know what it's like. And they're like, okay, Charlotte, nice city, Bojangles, you know. So nice, awesome. Wow, an hour passed already. With that said, you know, that concludes episode 49. Obviously, one thing I do want to mention again, and you guys saw it, we will be doing a watch party at the pub in Uptown for the first match against St. Louis. It's going to be jam-packed. We're also going to be doing a really cool giveaway, so be on the lookout for that because we're going to be giving 2 tickets away, but they're not just 2 tickets. They're phenomenal tickets. And so we've got more information soon. With that said, Brian, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Exit. Bam! Mauer Media, all my written content, topin90.com. You can find me all over the place.
Mr. Justin Osinski?
Well, you can find Osinski Law Firm, my website, jcolaw.com, or Instagram, Osinski Law Firm. Hit us up if you need any legal questions answered.
For sure. And with that said, I'm Jorge Gonzalez. Follow us on Top Bin 90 on all our socials. We are over and out. Good.